Another CES has passed, and yet another new laptop iteration from Razer has appeared. I feel like they launch a new laptop or a new iteration of a laptop like every few months. It's crazy. Regardless, this time they launched the new Razer Blade 15 2019 model. Now, I did a video not too long ago on the original Razer Blade 15 and the Razer Blade 15 Mercury White Edition. You can check out both of those videos at the links below. And this is a very similar laptop to those, but there are a few significant upgrades that we need to talk about. So, Razer was kind enough to send me a laptop to borrow. I figured I would try to do a complete walkthrough for you guys. Now, if you're not familiar, a complete walkthrough on channels where I try to go through every single feature I possibly can on a new device so that you guys are better prepared should you actually be in the market to go buy one. You'll know what it can do, what it can't do, all that other stuff. Now, with that said, there's a lot to go through. So, let's get started with the styling. Now, that styling is essentially identical to the original 15-inch model, except that, at least according to their site, is a 0.5 millimeter thicker than the Razer Blade 15 Advanced model with the GTX 1070. By the way, the GTX models are on sale right now, although a lot of them are out of stock, and they're now being called the Razer Blade 15 V1 on their site. Now, I honestly can't tell any difference, really. And regardless, that makes it thinner by about 2 millimeters than the Razer Blade 15 base model, which was launched not too long ago as a cheaper option of the Razer Blade 15 that also added an Ethernet port. Are we seeing what I mean about the number of Razer products that are released? Now, besides that unnoticeable change in thickness, really, the length and width are still identical, and identical to the base model as well for that matter, so you are still getting a compact 15-inch laptop like you'd expect. For those not familiar with the V1 model, the device is machined out of a solid block of aluminum and then painted with this matte black finish and endowed with the unmistakable three-headed snake logo on the top cover that, of course, lights up Razer green. We still have the choice of a 15.6-inch 144Hz non-touchscreen IPS display or a 4K 60Hz touchscreen display, and we still have the same 4.9mm bezels. Above the screen, we have a 1-megapixel webcam capable of 720p video.
Here's what the webcam looks like and the microphones sound like.
And besides the webcam, we also have an IR sensor. So that means that we can use facial recognition and Windows Hello to log into the device. Something that I appreciate that they brought to the Razer Blade Stealth 13 2019 model. So it's great to see it kind of making its way to the rest of the lineup as well. Below the screen, we have our per key RGB anti-ghosting clicky keyboard that is Razer Chroma enabled and can be controlled, along with that logo on the lid, via the included Razer Synapse app. You can fully customize each key or go with an included setup like fire, ripple, breathing, my favorite, spectrum cycling, or a few others. Now, under the keyboard, we have the same large glass trackpad that is a precision trackpad, which means its drivers are handled by Windows itself, which just makes it more precise, go figure. Able to use Windows gestures, and just is better in my opinion. On the other side of the keyboard, we have our dual stereo Dolby Atmos speakers that sound like this.
In this trident resides the power of Atlantis.
Integrated to the right speaker grille, we have what looks like it could be a fingerprint sensor, but it's actually just the power button. For ports, on the right we have a USB-C port that is Thunderbolt 3 capable, a USB 3.1 port, a full HDMI 2.0B port, a mini display port 1.4, and a Kensington lock. On the left we have the proprietary power port, 2 more USB 3.1 ports, and a 3.5mm audio jack. On the bottom, you can get a glimpse of the fans attached to Razer's vapor cooling chamber and a series of screws that, if you felt like it, you can undo to get access to the thankfully upgradable RAM and SSD slots. Now, it comes with 16 gigs of RAM and the choice of either a 256 or 512 gig NVMe PCIe SSD, but it'll support up to 2 terabytes of SSD, and unlike the paltry 32 gigs of RAM that the last 15-inch model could be upgraded to, you can upgrade this one to a total of 64 gigs if you felt the need. Now, for how to do that, you can check out my video at the link below for a tutorial I did in the last Razer Blade 15 model, and it should work the same for this one as well. Now, inside we do have the same 8th gen Intel Core i7-8750H processor, but Razer has replaced the NVIDIA GTX 1060 and 1070 graphics cards options with the new RTX 2060, RTX 2070 Max-Q, and even the RTX 2080 Max-Q. For the battery, an issue I have with most gaming laptops, frankly, we have an 80 watt-hour cell, the same as the V1 models. So, I put them both side by side. This is the 1070 GTX and the 2070 RTX as a base comparison. Now, I put them all on the same settings, and here's how they did looping a 1080p video. Now, basically, as we can see, the battery life doing this type of a task is the same. Now, in all fairness, this didn't really activate the GPU that much, but it still gives you a base idea of doing most tasks on the device is going to be similar in battery life to the old model. As for performance, let's see how the 2070 model does versus the 1070 in some popular gaming benchmarks on the same settings. And finally, here are some render times and also what the battery did during using Premiere, which is something that actually did use the GPU. Turns out the RTX 2070 model rendered my 4K YouTube preset video about 14% faster than the GTX 1070 model. Also, while they were rendering, the battery life loss was basically identical. But since the RTX rendered faster once it was done, the 1070 ended up putting a few more percentage points in between them before finishing, which is just interesting. Now for software, we're running Windows 10 Home, and thanks to Razer's no bloatware policy, we only really have the Razer Synapse app that's added to the normal Windows experience, along with the normal Windows bloatware like Minecraft, etc., which you can thankfully uninstall by just right-clicking on it. Now, really fast, in Synapse, you can change the chroma of the keyboard as mentioned, as well as any paired chroma-enabled device, by the way. But you can also set up macros to run a specific combination of actions when a specific key is pressed, handy in games that constantly use a sequence of actions over and over. We also have Hypershift mode that lets you add extra functions to keys that can be triggered when using the Hypershift button. You can also set up profiles for coloring, performance, battery settings, etc. to switch between manually or automatically based on the application or game that you're currently using. And finally, we have a module for Philips Hue to sync your Philips Hue lights with the chroma settings and light up your entire room, should that be something you're into. So that's it really. Only difference are the RTX cards, the 0.5mm increase in thickness that you won't notice. It's upgradable to 64 gigs of RAM instead of 32, and the inclusion of Windows Hello, the facial recognition support. But the thing is that all of these models cost basically the same as the V1 models. So the RTX 2060 144Hz model starts at $2299 instead of the $2199 that GTX 1060 144Hz model started at. For the RTX 2070 144Hz model though, it's the same as the GTX 1070 144Hz, starting at $2399. The RTX 2070 4K model and 1070 4K model are the same at $2899. Leaving the RTX 2080 model as the only one that doesn't have a GTX equivalent since there was no GTX 1080 models, and that one is $3,000. So all of these upgrades, these differences, come at the exact same cost as the old models. So that's great. I mean, the only time you'd really not be that excited about that is if you maybe bought the old model and then this one came out, like I did. There you go, guys. Let me know what you think of the Razer Blade 15 2019 model in the comments below. Love to hear from you guys. Of this video, of what I did as far as testing is concerned, do you have any suggestions? Anything you'd like to see me do in other complete walkthroughs going forward? Always like to hear from you. Otherwise, if you like this video, please thumbs up or share it. It's greatly appreciated. Also, check out the rest of the channel. If you like what you see there, please subscribe and ding the bell next to where subscribe so you get notified when I do new videos. Also, check out my blog. I'm restarting it. It's theunlocker.com with an E missing in the word unlocker. I'm going to put a bunch of articles on there about tutorials, how-tos, tech news, and other things that just don't necessarily make it here to video if you want to check that out. Also, subscribe to the email newsletter there. It's a weekly one. It goes out every Sunday. It's not annoying, I promise. And you can always unsubscribe, of course. As always, though, regardless, thanks for watching.